Hello everybody, Maven here, and this is quite possibly the world's first PvE review of the Igneous Hammer. I played so much Trials this weekend that I reset Saint 14 4 times, and I got a plethora of god rolls, and I selected a few PvE god rolls to test out for this video and determine which one is the best roll. However, I do have some good news and some very, very bad news coming up in about 7 seconds, but first off, if at any point you find you enjoy the video, I'd appreciate it if you drop a like and possibly subscribe if you are new, and let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. So let's take a look at the rolls of the old Igneous Hammer, which are on the left, and the new Igneous Hammer on the right. Now, if you are an avid PvE player, you can immediately tell that something vital is missing from the new Igneous Hammer, and that is the perk Subsistence. Subsistence is an S+ tier perk, and I believe that it is the best Adclair primary ammo weapon perk in the game. And the fact that it lost this is such a shame. Just imagine the possibilities. If we can pair Subsistence with Frenzy or Incandescent, it would be amazing, but unfortunately Bungie screwed us. However, there is a little bit of potentially good news. If we take a look at the old Igneous Hammer, the best damage perk it has is Rampage, which is it's pretty par. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. But on the new Igneous Hammer, we have a lot of really cool damage perks. We got the brand new Precision Instrument, we have Incandescent, we got Golden Tricorn, we got Frenzy. These are definitely a lot better options than Rampage in my opinion. So without further ado, let's get to some testing. So we're gonna start off our first test here in the Hydroponics Delta because enemies here are like 3 times tankier than raid enemies. So this is a pretty solid place to test out if a weapon is good or not. And the roll that we are starting with is Encore and Frenzy. And as you know, Encore stacks up to 4 times, increasing your range and stability for each stack, essentially just maxing out your range and stability, whereas Frenzy is going to grant you plus 100 handling and plus 100 reload speed and plus 15% damage. So this roll turns your Igneous Hammer into a stat monster, pretty much maxes out all of your statistics. So it just makes the weapon feel godly, and having that static plus 15% damage is very nice, especially in tougher content where it's tougher to proc certain damage perks. With Frenzy, you know that it's always going to be there, just as long as you're in combat. So it's useful in content like Grandmasters, where you're going to have a tougher time proccing those kill perks. And this is the roll that I originally thought would be the best roll. It's a pretty solid roll, and it feels amazing, but we still have more to get to. So the next roll is going to be Heal Clip plus Frenzy. Now, because we don't have Encore, we're not getting that maxed out range and stability. However, getting Cure after each kill, reviving like a third of our HP, is a very solid thing because survivability is key in PvE. That's why we always run resist fragments and resist mods and 100 resilience. It's because we need to survive, and getting back a third of our HP on a kill is very nice to have, and it has really good synergy with Frenzy because you need to reload to do so, but Frenzy grants you plus 100 reload speed. However, I'm a controller player, so I like to have a lot of stability, and using the Heal Clip Frenzy roll over the Encore Frenzy roll definitely lacks in the stability department. But then again, my roll doesn't have maxed out stability, so if I can get my hands on a Heal Clip Frenzy roll with max stability parts and a stability masterwork, then it would definitely feel better than the Encore Frenzy roll. And next up, we got the roll of Rapid Hit and Precision Instrument. This is a brand new perk that says dealing sustained damage increases precision damage. Now, first off, I was under the impression that it might have been bugged and only dealing precision damage increases precision damage, but I tested it out against Carl's, you can see in this clip here, and I was wrong. Dealing damage to the body increases those precision instrument stacks, and when you get to the head, you're going to have that bonus damage. So at maximum stacks, you get plus 25% damage, whereas Frenzy is 15%, so it's a little bit better, but the stacks do wear off over 1.25 seconds, so when you're swapping over from target to target, or when you reload your gun, you're likely going to lose those stacks, but you can get them back very quickly. Now, this perk is very comparable to a couple things in the game, one of which being Gutshot Straight. It's like the opposite of it because Gutshot wants you to hit the body, Precision Instrument wants you to hit the head, and then it's also very comparable to Target Lock, but as you know, Target Lock only rolls on fully automatic weapons, whereas Precision Instrument only rolls on precision semi-auto weapons, so it's like having Target Lock on your Igneous. So similar to Frenzy, if you're doing high level content, it's a damage perk that you don't have to work for. It's just gonna be there simply by shooting your gun. So it's a very nice perk to have in that regard. And it has very good synergy with rapid hit because, you know, precision instrument wants to hit the head, rapid hit wants to hit the head, and you get that bonus stability and reload speed, and it just works together very good. Now we're gonna do a quick side-by-side damage comparison versus Frenzy against Carl. And the question is here, which one does the most damage? Because while Precision Instrument does give you 10% more damage than Frenzy, you also have to build up to it by shooting 5 times, and then you also lose it when you reload. So overall, which one comes out ahead? And at the start of the damage, it does appear to be pretty similar, but ultimately the Precision Instrument roll jumps ahead to the lead as time goes on. I don't know if that was because I had appended mag and, you know, the Frenzy roll had to reload more, and also the Frenzy roll got booped near the end, but still I feel like the damage of the Precision Instrument roll is just way more consistent. And it also doesn't require any setup, whereas Frenzy needs you to be in combat for a while. But anyways, let's move on to our next roll here. We got Rapid Hit with Golden Tricorn. Honestly, I would have preferred Encore Golden Tricorn. This is the one roll today where I didn't get the God roll that I wanted. But Golden Tricorn, as you know, is the biggest damage perk in Destiny 2. At 1 stack, when you get a kill, for 7 seconds you get plus 15% damage, but during those 7 seconds, if you get an ability kill matching the weapon's element, so in this case a solar ability kill within that 7 seconds, you get a 2nd stack of Golden Tricorn, upping your damage to plus 50% damage. And that damage is massive, and it's really making the Igneous feel like it's hidden like a truck. But just the downside is having to pay attention to that. You know, you have to keep track of it. You have to really go for that ability kill within those 7 seconds, and you're trying too hard to do it sometimes. And if it's in tougher content, you may die trying to get that perk online because you're greedy. So honestly, I really do not like Golden Tricorn. It may be a lot of damage, but it's way too needy. And now we're moving on to the Encore Incandescent roll, and I know a lot of you guys out there believe this is gonna be the best roll, but unfortunately in content like this where enemies are a little bit tankier, Incandescent Scourge doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. And in this test here, come to find out that in order to cause a solar ignition, you gotta have Ember of Ashes, an enemy needs to be dealt damage by 2 separate incandescent explosions, and also touch a sunspot. It's just way too much to cause an ignition. I don't think it's really worth it. However, if you did use incandescent in easier content, I'm sure the Scorch would do a lot more damage, and we will also do a test on that later on in the video. But for the time being, I'm not too impressed with it. It's not a damage perk, so just generally it's not hitting as hard as our other rolls. And finally, we get to what I believe to be the best roll. This is Subsistence and Rampage. This is the old Adept Igneous Hammer, and it's just a beast. You can't really beat it. Like, Subsistence is broken. Every kill is refunding 2 shots back into my magazine. Rampage is giving me a constant plus 33% damage, whereas Frenzy was 15, Precision Instruments 25, Golden Tricorn you have to work for. Subsistence you just slay out, you don't reload, you do a ton of damage. It's just amazing. When it comes to ad clear, there's just really no comparison. This roll is the best. However, it does have its downsides. When you get to a beefier target, Rampage is going to run out in 4.5 seconds, and then you're just going to be sitting there with base damage. You're not getting any bonus shots loaded into your magazine. It's just a base Igneous Hammer at that point. So that is where things like Frenzy and Precision Instrument really shine, because even when you're shooting a tankier target that's not dying right away, you are still getting bonus damage, whereas this roll is not. But in terms of ad clear, 9-day difference, this one wins. And now we're going to move on to a Grandmaster Nightfall Trash Mob ad killing test with some of the best rolls from this. We're going to eliminate Golden Tricorn just because I do not like that roll. And we're only going to test one of the Frenzy rolls instead of both of them. You know, we're going to take out the Heal Clip Frenzy. We know it's good, but I don't have the perfect roll yet. So we're testing Encore Frenzy first. And like I said earlier, Frenzy is what I believe is going to be the best perk for tougher content like Grandmasters, since you don't have to work for it. That buff is always going to be there, and the plus 100 reload speed is just really nice to have because there's far less downtime in Grandmasters. And the roll did okay. I mean, it didn't really exceed my expectations or anything. Those thralls kind of pushed me back, but I was able to fight through, and it's a good starting point. And now we're going to move on to the Precision Instrument roll, and now I'm very hopeful about this one. I was very wowed with this perk a second ago, just pretty much having target lock on a semi-auto weapon. And this one, the only downside is it's not giving us that 100 reload speed, but rapid hit can somewhat remedy that. And you do really have to hit the head with this roll, but since it is a slower firing hand cannon, that really shouldn't be too big of an issue. I mean, it is a skill issue, but not too big of a skill issue. Now, I'm really on the fence whether I like Frenzy or Precision Instrument more, because Precision Instrument is really growing on me. It's just that all Frenzy has going for it is that 100 reload speed. That's all it has going for it. If it wasn't for that, I would easily 100% pick Precision Instrument. And now we're moving on to the Incandescent Roll. Now, I didn't really expect too much out of this one, seeing as how earlier in Hydroponics Delta, I said that Incandescent Scorch really doesn't do much. However, in a Grandmaster Nightfall, when enemies are tightly grouped together, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, there's a few GMs where that happens, like Devil's Lair, Disgraced. There may be some more that I'm forgetting right now. But it's not too bad in that situation, but generally I don't think it's going to be that great. But in this clip here, it did really kind of exceed my expectations. But then I come to realize that that is because I was making sunspots. So I wanted to try it again, and I took off the aspect, and it ended up being a lot worse. I mean, it still wasn't that bad, but it was a lot worse. I would 100% use Frenzy over this roll. So for tough content, I'd say Incandescent is a failure, but like I said earlier, Incandescent is meant for easy content, where that Scorch is actually gonna do damage. So we're gonna do an easy content test in a second, but first we have one more roll to get to. And that is, of course, the Subsistence Rampage roll. And this one actually blew my mind, because I didn't think it would put in the work in a Grandmaster like it does in easier content, but I blew through this entire thing not having to reload a single time, and I just shredded through stuff. And keep in mind, in none of these clips did I have any kind of damage perk. I took off Monochromatic Maestro, I took off Radiant, I took off Surges. This is just base damage, and I blew through all these adds, not having to reload once. So when it comes to Grandmaster Trash Mob ad clearing, I'm sorry once again to bring you the bad news that the old Igneous Hammer is worlds better than the new one. But like I said before, there's a little bit of good news, because this roll is gonna suffer against beefier targets, because you're gonna lose your Rampage stacks. So it's a GM, there's a lot of beefy targets, so in which case it'd be better to have something like Precision Instrument. So that is something that the new Igneous has over the old one, so it's not completely useless. But now, contrary to the GM, we're gonna move on to the easy content test between these two rolls here, which are presumably to be the best. We got the Incandescent roll and the Subsistence Rampage roll. Which one is gonna come out on top? So whenever I do my easy content ad clear test, I like to go to the Orrery Lost sector on Nessus. And the problem with this Incandescent roll is that in easy content, enemies are so fragile that they just die in one shot anyways. Like, I didn't get as many Incandescent Scorch kills as I had wanted to, and I feel like most of the time it was just the sunspots putting in the work and not really the Incandescent. So it's fun, it's a satisfying perk with those explosions, but I don't think it's really the best perk. It's essentially like as if you had Dragonfly. And why would I want to have Dragonfly when I can just have like a raw damage perk? But it's definitely not bad. That Scorch can get kills in easy content, and the upside about the Incandescent roll is that if you don't have access to the old Igneous Hammer and you can only get the new one, Incandescent is going to be your best roll for easy content. So this is what you're going to want to go for. Plus, it does have some subclass synergy for your solar builds. And one thing I will give Incandescent over the Subsistence Rampage roll is that it's better when adds are very tightly grouped together, because those incandescent explosions are going to stagger the surrounding enemies. So it may be a little bit better for survivability as well. But now let's move on to the Subsistence Rampage roll, and I still think that it is a night and day difference, and it's just so much better in my opinion, because you're just doing 33% more damage than the other roll is doing, while also never having to reload. It's just incredible. And dare I make this comparison, but this roll is almost on par with the Sunshot. Yes, when you have Rampage getting that 33.3% damage, the Sunshot, since it's exotic, does plus 40% more damage, so it's only a 6.7% difference in damage, However, the Sunshot does have 30 more RPM and also has those impetus explosions, but the trade-off is that the Igneous Hammer has that subsistence, so it's really up to you which one you feel is better, but they are pretty comparable in terms of power level. So now on to the TLDR. If you do not have the old Subsistence Rampage God roll and your only option was to go for a new Igneous, I gotta say the rolls to go for is probably going to be Heal Clip Frenzy for general play. I think that's just going to be overall the best. And then for tougher content, I would go with Rapid Hit Precision Instrument. That is my final verdict. And if there's anything I might have missed, feel free to let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment because it really helps out the algorithm. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I will catch you in the next video. See you later.